Hey gang, welcome back. I just came into my little home studio here and the door came off its hinges because the wood of the doorway is rotting away. It's an old house. This has happened with like 2 other doors in the house. Now it's happening to this fucking one. I've screwed the door back on, but it doesn't seem like it's gonna hold. So it's long story short, this recording might not be 100% soundproof, but let's crack on. I watched some cool stuff this month. I watched a lot of TV. I didn't watch too many movies, but I went back and rewatched a lot of great TV shows. Bottoms. If you've been following this channel, you'll remember how obsessed I was with this film when it came out. I watched it like a few times a month for like a whole year. I haven't been able to watch it in a while because it wasn't on streaming, and I tried like hell. Kino Lorber has released a Blu-ray, but only in America, and you know, it's in 4K, which I think is region free, so I was going to try and get a hold of one anyway and just pay for the shipping, if that would be like 20 quid, and they won't ship to the UK, so I might have to wait for someone to sell one secondhand, or for them to just fucking release one that's not in America. But it came back to Prime, so I was able to watch it again, and it just never gets old. I love this film so much. It's so funny, and you know, with a really unique sense of humor and a really unique perspective, and a very dark sense of humor, but in a way that's very fun and silly, and like it feels light, but the content is so dark. You know, I just love it. Wonder Man. This is a new Marvel show on Disney Plus. It's so good. I loved it so much. I watched it all in one sitting. You know, it's more like The Studio than like The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, because it's like this Hollywood satire / buddy comedy about this, you know, washed up has-been actor who is Trevor Slattery, aka the Mandarin. He's had such a crazy arc. You know, they've really paid the fuck off out of that reveal in Iron Man 3. And Yahya Abdul-Mateen II as Simon Williams as Wonder Man. He's kind of this up-and-coming actor. It's kind of the opposite of what in the comics, Wonder Man is a superhero who also happens to be an actor, and in the show, Simon Williams is an actor who also happens to have superpowers, and there's a whole legal thing in the MCU where people with superpowers aren't allowed to be in movies and TV shows, so he's got to keep his superpowers a secret because it might interfere with his acting career. And it's just this interesting look at, you know, where The Studio is a look at Hollywood from the top looking down, where it's the head of the studio, he's making the decisions. This is from the bottom looking up. This is an actor who's just starting out, struggling to get his big break, and you kind of see from both perspectives, you see how fucking absurd this whole industry is. But Yahya is great. His chemistry with Ben Kingsley is off the charts. I just loved watching them together. It was a wonderful show. Send Help. This was so much fun. So much. It's classic Sam Raimi, gory and gross out and funny and dark and twisted, and I just had an absolute blast start to finish. And I think it really benefited from watching it on the big screen and being with an audience, having the atmosphere of an audience and a big crowd that's like laughing along, and you get to enjoy every twist and turn with the crowd, and it was just great. It's already on my top 10 for the year, and we're only just getting into March. I did a video about Send Help if you want to check it out. Ella McCay. This one I missed in cinemas. I was going to review it for the channel, and then for whatever reason I didn't get around to doing it and missed it in cinemas, and then it popped up on Disney Plus. But I'm a huge James L. Brooks fan, so I was not just people were making fun of this film, and it became a TikTok trend to recreate the poster. I was looking forward to it because I love his films. I love, you know, broadcast news and As Good as It Gets, and all his, you know, terms of endearment. His kind of, it's very human. It's like a mix of comedy and drama that feels very human and reflects real life. And but Ella McCay, I was hoping this would be like his last hurrah, you know, because it's probably gonna be his last film, and he hasn't made one in a while. And I thought like he can go out with a bang, he can go out on top, and he didn't go on top. It's not a very good movie. Jamie Lee Curtis steals the show. She's great in it, as I want to say Ella's auntie, but kind of like a mother figure to her, and she was hilarious. She was wonderful in it. Albert Brooks was great. Iowa Debris had been, from Star of Bottoms, she was teased in the trailers as being a big part of the film, probably because she's very famous and popular, and, you know, with a younger demographic than would be interested in seeing Jamie Lee Curtis and Albert Brooks and Woody Harrelson. But she's in like one scene. She's the British kid from Alien Romulus, plays Ella's brother, and Io is his ex, and he goes around to her apartment to like beg her to take him back after he's ghosted her for a year, and she's like, this is so weird, and she's like freaked out, and he's coming on way too strong, and he's like, you have to be my girlfriend again, and she's like clearly creeped out and kind of is saying, let's just go and get some lunch and we'll talk about it, and then immediately is like, actually that's a bad idea, I don't want to go out, you just need to get out of my apartment. And then in his last ditch effort, when he's on his knees begging her to be his girlfriend, she says, okay, let's do it. And then it's like not where that scene was going at all. Like in real life, she wouldn't be like charmed by that, she'd be like calling the police. And then that's supposed to be like their that's their romantic payoff. That's supposed to be a big, sweeping, beautiful, romantic moment. It's just bizarre. The Wrecking Crew. It's a new action movie on Prime with Dave Bautista and Jason Momoa. It was like this year's Heads of State, like the prime action comedy that is way better than it has any right to be. I fucking love this movie. The action is incredibly well directed, way above what you normally get with straight-to-streaming action scenes. Momoa and Bautista have really amazing chemistry, and they're having fun together, and their fun is infectious. You have fun watching them. I thought it was delightful. I stuck it on not expecting much. I was going to have it on as like background noise while I was doing some work. I got swept up in it. I really enjoyed it. Anniversary. This came on Netflix. I never heard of it, but it was came out like a year ago, and as a star-studded cast. There's like Diane Lane, Kyle Chandler's really great in it as the dad. But once I saw Dylan O'Brien was in it on the thumbnail, that's all I needed to know after Send Help. I stuck it on immediately because I loved him in Send Help. I wanted to see him in another kind of dark comedy, and this is a really interesting kind of dystopian political thriller about set in an America where this political movement sweeps America, and it's this one-party idea that will destroy democracy. And much to Diane Lane's dismay, it becomes really popular and actually that becomes America. It's one party. It's a dictatorship. And it hit a bit close to home for obvious reasons, but I think it did a really good job of slowly building the tension, slowly introducing the authoritarianism. Honestly, it turns American democracy into a dictatorship much more subtly than it's doing in real life right now, Real life doesn't have the nuance of this film. Archer. I've been watching episodes of Archer to fall asleep to every night. I watched Archer when it was on, but I gave up during the coma dream seasons, because that didn't really, there was like 2 or 3 seasons where Archer's in a coma and he's imagining himself in all these, like an Indiana Jones type action adventure or an old detective noir, and just kind of populates the cast with all his friends and co-workers and puts them in certain roles of these genre archetypes. But then, it's the same cast, but they're not really playing their characters. And it just didn't feel the same, so I gave up during those seasons. But I actually enjoyed rewatching it now. I gave up before they got to the one in space, before Archer 1999 or something it's called, like a retro futuristic sci-fi thing, and I actually really enjoyed that one. And then after that, it went back to the original formula of it's just a spy show, but it wasn't the same because it was missing the magic, especially after Jessica Walter died, so they couldn't have Mallory anymore. It just didn't feel the same. Girls, Lena Dunham's HBO show. I watched this when it was on, but I was like 13 when it started, so I enjoyed the characters, I enjoyed the actors and their performances, and everyone's such a well-rounded cast. Everyone's got such a distinctive personality, and everyone is a type that you recognize from real life. But I couldn't really relate to it because I was a kid. I'd never been in a relationship. I wasn't out trying to find a job. I wasn't struggling to pay my bills. And I find, since then I binge watched it about 4 or 5 years ago, and now I've done it again. And I find that as I'm getting older, I relate to it more and more every time I watch it. The bad relationships, the bad breakups, the financial struggles, the professional struggles, all the stuff that I wasn't going through at 13, but am now, So I think it's a great show. I think Lena Dunham's a great writer. Send Help. I rewatched Send Help. I went with my dad and my sister. Well, I went with my sister, and my fucking dad showed up like half an hour late. He showed up during the plane crash. It was like half an hour into the film. He was so late. He came wandering in. But, that's when he missed all the setup, but that's when the movie really starts. That's when it really kicks off. And it was still on a second viewing, an absolute blast. Even knowing all the twists, to know when it's coming. It's as enjoyable, if not more, because you are anticipating what's going to happen next and looking forward. And it's a great film. Heartburn. This is it's like Meryl Streep and Jack Nicholson are basically playing Nora Ephron and Carl Bernstein. She based the script on her own life, and it's not a great story, compared to something like When Harry Met Sally or Sleepless in Seattle or one of these other wonderful rom-coms that Nora Ephron wrote. I think Ephron. I think she might have been too close to the story in this case, because it's based on her real life. It's hard to differentiate what's an interesting scene or what's the organic next step for this story versus what happened in real life. What was I feeling in real life? So it's not a great film, but Meryl Streep and Jack Nicholson give great performances and have great chemistry as this married couple who fall in and then out of love. Beverly Hills Ninja. I stuck this on Netflix because I wanted to watch something that wouldn't be too challenging, and it's one of the worst movies I've ever seen, starring one of the funniest people who ever lived. It's Chris Farley is hilarious, and he's given almost nothing to work with here. It's just a bunch of cheap slapstick gags, and he throws himself into them. He's great great at doing that kind of thing, but you need more for a feature film, for a sustainable story. You need more than Chris Farley falling on his arse. Predator Badlands. I watched this a couple times in cinemas, and now it came to Disney Plus, so I rewatched it at home. It's pure pulp space opera. It's action-packed and fun and a great story. But I do think it misses something watching it at home as opposed to the big screen, because those action sequences looked incredible and felt really cinematic on a big screen. And at home, it's not the same. And it makes me sad that, the sequel to it probably will go straight to Disney Plus because fucking underperformed at the box office. So we might not even have the chance to watch the next one on the big screen, if there is a next one. Wuthering Heights. This is another one I did a video on, if you want to check that out. But I didn't love the film. I don't despise Emerald Fennell's films as much as some people do. Once you recontextualize her filmography as she's this posh, ultra-rich daughter of a jewelry designer from London who went to boarding school and then grew up, and whatever she fancied doing, she wanted to be a children's author or she wanted to be an actor, she could, she had the connections and the money and the financial freedom to just try it out, and then she ended up falling into being a director. And that's how you end up watching Saltburn, and it basically confirms the 1%'s fears that the working and middle classes are coming for them, But she seems to just go for the visceral reaction. She seems to just want to shock. There's like no substance. It's just, look at Barry Keoghan fucking a grave. Isn't that shocking? And it's, I'm not like, I haven't even read the book. I just, know the story from other versions, and I'm not like a purist. You can do an unfaithful adaptation. You can deviate from the text. I mean, the text is there. So if you want to adapt it, which is what the word adapt means, you can make changes. But all the changes here make the story much less complex, and it basically eradicates everything that makes it interesting and just turns it into Emerald Fennell's wet dream. The title of my review was Wuthering Heights Drove Me Mad, but the original title was Emerald Fennell is the thirstiest director in Hollywood. Because it really, after watching Saltburn and Wuthering Heights, it really is just like, will someone just fuck her and get it over with? And then, because these are like the horniest movies I've ever seen. But then I thought maybe that title will get some backlash, and then the whole Drive Me Mad thing kind of handed itself to me. I was like, very clever. Uncharted, the Uncharted movie with Tom Holland and Mark Wahlberg, horribly miscast as Sully. I watched this film when it came out in cinemas, which was, 4 years ago, something like that, before I'd played any of the games, and I didn't really like it. And now I've played all the games, some of them a few times, so I thought, hey, I'll rewatch the film, see if there's any Easter eggs I missed, and, maybe it was like tailored to fans, and there was things I missed because I wasn't a fan at the time. But I hated it even more, because the games have such incredible cinematic set pieces and such a sweeping sense of adventure, and the film has none of that. I didn't feel like I was being swept away on an adventure. I felt like I'm just watching a by-the-numbers Hollywood action movie. And Mark Wahlberg, they gave him the role of Sully as a consolation prize because he'd aged out of the role of Nate, but he was wrong for Sully, because he just plays Sully like he would have played Nate. So you end up with two Nates. And then Tom Holland basically is doing, Peter Parker, but with a sick Parvis Magna ring around his neck instead of having web slingers on his wrists. And all the bullshit, the whole backstory where Nate was a Tom Cruise in Cocktail-style bartender when Sully met him. Like, we know how Sully met him. Why not just use that backstory? That was in the games. You don't have to remake Cocktail. The climactic sequence where there's a helicopter with a pirate ship dangling off it, that was like that felt like something that would happen in the games. But it was too little too late, They'd already fucked it way up by then. My favorite part of it, actually, there was one Easter egg that I would have missed when I first watched it, where Nolan North, the voice of Nathan Drake in the games, has a cameo, where Tom Holland's Nathan Drake they basically did the plane scene from Uncharted 3, where the cargo is tumbling out the back of the plane and it knocks him and he's dangling off and he falls and he washes up on the beach and Nolan North is there sunbathing and he's like, gee, what happened to you? And they say, yeah, well, we fell out of a plane, and he goes, something like that happened to me once. I got a kick out of that cameo, but that's not enough to salvage an entire film. How to Get to Heaven from Belfast. This is the new show from Lisa McGee, the creator of Derry Girls. And it almost feels like a spiritual sequel to Derry Girls, because all these characters, it's not the characters from Derry Girls, and there are a ton of actors from Derry Girls in different roles, but these main characters, you can see parallels with the characters from Derry Girls. It's almost like them as adults. This is where they all end up when they grow up, which was interesting. As a huge Derry Girls fan, I was interested to see. This one, she kind of adapts, like, Derry Girls is the perfect half-hour sitcom. It's perfectly written, perfectly acted, characterized, everything. And this is, she adapts her writing style from the half-hour comedy to the hour-long drama. And it's still really, really funny, but it also is a compelling mystery and, a thriller. And I really enjoyed it. The Secret Agent. This was the last of the Best Picture nominees I hadn't seen. And it finally came to UK cinemas. And Wagner Moura's fantastic in it. I totally see why he's been nominated for Best Actor. And it's this timely political thriller about fascism and how a fascist regime can tear a family apart. And, we're focusing just on this one guy and his son, but that's when a dictatorship takes over a whole country, that's writ large, that's millions of families are affected like that. But we just see it through this one guy's eyes. And as timely and as haunting as it is to see the effects of a dictatorship, it's also just a ton of fun. It's like very colorful visuals. It's very funny. And he mostly, while he's laying low, he mostly is just hanging out. And the people he's staying with are this interesting ensemble of people. And so it's a really interesting, kind of quirky little thriller. It was a bit like Rio Bravo, where it's like laying low for the first 2 acts, and in the third act, it gets really intense and action-packed. And the violence was really jarringly gruesome. I thought it was really effective. And then the ending was, without wanting to spoil it, a complete surprise, and was like the final nail in getting Wagner Moura an Oscar nomination, because I'm trying not to spoil it, but he does something really interesting in that final scene. Scream. I rewatched the original Scream because I wanted to do a video about the first film before Scream 7 came out. So it's kind of just an excuse to rewatch it because it's one of my favorites. It was so good. When me and my sister went to watch it, I think it was like the 25th anniversary, so what would that be, 2021? It was so good on the big screen with a crowd, and I've since rewatched it at home a couple of times, and it's not quite the same as that riotous atmosphere, but it's a really great, brilliant film. Lethal Weapon. I rewatched the original Lethal Weapon. This is one of my childhood favorites. This was when me and my friends were out trying to make movies with our little camcorder and our little BB guns, and this was the movie we were trying to make. We were trying to make like an old school action movie with practical effects. We would get my friend Mike, his dad, would do stunts with us in his car. He would let us jump in and out of his car while he was moving. And, we couldn't direct action as well as Richard Donner, and neither of us had the charisma of a Mel Gibson or a Danny Glover. But that's what we were trying to do, because at the time we were seeing this deluge of Transformers and Marvel and all these big CGI smash 'em up action movies. But we loved these old ones from the 80s, where it was like, if you're going to throw someone off a roof, you throw them off a roof. If you're going to hit someone with a car, you hit them with a car. Just like, do it all for real. One battle after another. Far and away my favorite film of the past year. Many people's favorite film of the past year. Probably going to turn out to be the Academy's favorite film of last year when we see the Academy Awards in a couple of weeks. And I bought the 4K Blu-ray, so I had a few friends over and we watched it, and it was just so much fun. Especially that whole run where Leo hooks up with Benicio and he's helping him. He takes him back to his apartment and he's trying to get in touch with the people to get the rendezvous point and remember the password. What time was it? And from when he gets the call that Lockjaw's at his house to when he falls off the roof and gets arrested. Probably about half an hour of the film. It might be my favorite chunk of a movie ever made. It's so much fun and just lively and brilliantly acted and shot with these long takes, and it's just the magic of cinema. There Will Be Blood. After one battle after another, I rewatched There Will Be Blood, which I've long contended is, and many people have, is Paul Thomas Anderson's masterpiece. But that may have changed this year with One Battle. But it basically is like the Godfather for the 21st century, the ultimate cinematic chronicle of the American dream and the dark side of the American dream. And oil was the perfect, because it represents so much. Striking oil. So when you see oil burst out of the ground, that is like, we're rich, we made it, but it's like visual and like just the consistency of it, the texture of it, this gloopy black sludge, it just represents like the corruption of Daniel Plainview's soul, It's a fantastic film. The Adventures of Tintin, The Secret of the Unicorn. I rewatched the Tintin movie. I don't know why I was compelled to, but I like Tintin. I like the comics and the animated series, and I loved this film. I thought it was a fantastic cinematic translation of those stories for a modern Hollywood blockbuster. And it did well at the box office, but not quite well enough for the studios to be like, get the fuck on a sequel. So they kind of have been on and off working on a sequel for like 15 years. It's probably never going to happen. I mean, Tintin's supposed to be a teenager, and Jamie Bell is like 48 now, so... But I would love to see more of the, because I feel like Jamie Bell and Andy Serkis as Captain Haddock really nailed those characters and their dynamic, and Simon Pegg and Nick Frost are so much fun as Thompson and Thompson, and the motion capture animated thing in something like the Polar Express, it's creepy and uncanny valley, but I feel like they really, with the combined efforts of Peter Jackson and Steven Spielberg, they perfected it for Tintin, and it looked really great, and it had that sense of adventure and wonder that Uncharted didn't have. Madam Web finally got around. Obviously I'd seen parts of Madam Web, the parts that have been memed and gone viral, and I hadn't seen the actual film. It came to Netflix and I stuck it on, and it truly is one of the worst fucking films I've ever seen. know, it's even just poorly made. It's incompetently made. It's like there's these weird zooms in the cinematography that is like almost like Succession, but in Succession they work because it's not jarring, and it suits that style of that show to have a kind of documentary style. Not so much this one. It's just really badly edited, and there's so much obvious ADR and product placement. Like so much Pepsi. There's fucking so much Pepsi in this film. I mean, the final destination premonition angle is somewhat interesting. I can say that that's not been done in a comic book movie before, but this isn't really a comic book movie. It doesn't feel very superhero-y. You know, you see a couple of visions of the characters in superhero costumes being a super spider team, but it never happens in the actual film. It's kind of so bad it's good. You know, watching Dakota Johnson completely phone it in and completely not give a fuck, to the point that her character comes off as an uncaring sociopath, and she's supposed to be our protagonist. You know, so it has this so bad it's good quality, but it is so bad. Kung Fu Panda 4. This was another one popped up on Netflix. I gave it a watch, and Jack Black is always great as Poe. It's missing all the, you know, the Furious Five are gone, but there's some interesting actors in this. Viola Davis is the villain, the chameleon who can disguise herself as, or kind of shapeshift into anyone, was interesting. She kind of turns herself into an evil Poe. That was an interesting thing to do. Ki Hoi Kwan is in it. Awkwafina is Poe's new sidekick, and her and Jack Black have this wonderful back and forth. I quite enjoyed it. So, you know, it's not, I mean, Kung Fu Panda 1 is a masterpiece, or it felt like that to me anyway, because I was like 10 when it came out. And then the sequels have all been good. There hasn't been a bad Kung Fu Panda yet, but it does start to feel a bit like we're just doing more of the same. Constantine. This is the movie with Keanu Reeves, played John Constantine, the kind of demonic chain-smoking PI from Hellblazer. Is it Hellblazer? What was the comic? And he's great in it. He really clearly loves that character and clearly had so much fun playing him. The film itself isn't that great, and it's like 2000 and something CGI, so that's not great, but you can't really blame it on the film. But there's some fun action sequences, and it doesn't sanitize the character for you know, it's as hellish and as demonic and as R-rated as the comics. So I'm excited to see, you know, there's supposed to be a sequel in development. I'd be excited to see that. Abigail. This was came out a couple of years ago. I missed it in cinemas. Again, Netflix. And it kind of is this reimagining of Dracula's daughter. This team of mercenaries are hired to kidnap this like gangster's daughter, and they kidnap her and hold her in this house. And then it turns out she's a vampire, and she starts picking them off one by one. And I think it would have been cool if they hadn't given it away that she's a vampire, if they'd let that be a twist. But I understand that I think it even underperformed at the box office with the vampire reveal. But I think if it had just advertised itself as a bunch of criminals kidnap a girl, that's not enough to get people in cinemas. You have to be like, and she's a vampire and she's gonna fucking kill him. But it was a fun time. It was a great cast, and I quite enjoyed it. Euphoria. Before season 3 comes out in a couple of, or a month, I think it's April. I thought I'd rewatch seasons 1 and 2, because season 2 was 4 years ago. More than 4 years ago now. So there's a lot of stuff I forgot. So I want a little refresher. But I loved the show. You know, it is very gratuitous, and it is very style over substance, and it sometimes even feels more like a music video than a TV show, with the montage editing and the aura farming cinematography, and it's a lot of fun. The characters are great. Even in season 2, where the writing's a lot less tight, and it's a lot less, I mean, the characters all start acting out of character in season 2. It's almost like a lot of the character development from season 1 gets undone, but it still is fun to watch. Like, it becomes a trashy soap opera, but it is a very, very enjoyable trashy soap opera, and very beautifully shot. So I'm here for season 3. I mean, from the trailer, it looks like it's gonna be a totally different show. They're all out of high school. Rue is in Mexico doing a Breaking Bad thing, but I'm excited to see where it goes next, because it's always been a wildly unpredictable show. So let's fucking go. Scream 7. This fucking sucked. I didn't like this at all, because I didn't really like Scream 6, and then I thought, okay, Kevin Williamson's coming back, creator of the franchise. Nev Campbell's coming back. Sidney Prescott is going to be the star again. And I think I read somewhere this is like the most screen time she's had in a Scream film since the original. But it's weak. It's a weak script. It's tedious and uninspired. It has nothing new to say. They didn't have an idea worthy of, let's make a whole new movie. They just were like, well, we got Sydney, so let's go. Let's just have, you know, the twist is nonsense. All the stuff with bringing back Matthew Lillard, it's a complete waste of his talents, because he's actually really enjoyable in it. But it was like Jeff Goldblum in Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, where his return is being hyped up as a big deal, and then he's in one costume in one location for every single appearance in the film. So it almost feels like he could have shot that in less than an hour, you know, and never met anyone else working on the film. So it's to have made such a big deal out of it. I feel like they should have just committed to it. If you're gonna bring Stu back, bring Stu back. Don't tease that you're gonna bring him back and then call me an idiot for thinking you would, you fucking assholes. But yeah, I did a video about that, if you want to check it out. Hoppers is another one I did a video about. And this was great. This was wonderful. It's a really touching story, a really delightful kind of coming-of-age story about this girl who's lost her grandma, and they grew up going to this lovely little pond where all these animals hang out, and they just love nature. And the mayor of the town is going to tear through the pond to build a highway around, like a beltway around the town. And so she's fighting tooth and nail to keep they like blow the beaver dam out of there, you know, basically like eradicate all the animals. So she turns herself, with her help of her college professor, she avatars herself into a beaver body and tries to rally the animals. But it like backfires because she just wants to like repopulate the pond, and they're like, let's kill this mayor. So it's a really great story. It's really fast-paced and fun and unpredictable, and I just loved all the characters. Mabel, the main character, is so sweet and lovable and just easy to root for, and King George, the king of the mammals, played by Bobby Moynihan, is so cute and funny, and but also like he's responsible for some of the more tear-jerking, lump in your throat moments in the film. And John Hamm is great as the mayor, and there's some moments in it. I don't want to spoil anything, but there's some moments that brought the fucking house down. You know, there are a couple of moments that are just really, really funny. You know, the whole film is just a blast from start to finish. Marty Supreme. My sister and my dad had both missed Marty Supreme in cinemas, and I was around at their house because I was helping my dad tear down his shed to make way for a new shed. So we watched it. We got a takeaway and we watched it, and we ate the takeaway first because I was like, the opening scene is his sperm fertilizing an egg, so maybe we don't want to eat. But it's such a funny film and such a thrilling film, and I think anyone who's trepidatious about watching it because they're like, ping pong's boring, it's really not about ping pong. It's about this New York hustler who has to con and cheat people and do all kinds of shit just to make enough cash to get him through the day so he can keep pursuing his dream of ping pong. And it's, in that sense, it really is like Uncut Gems. It really is Uncut Gems 2.0, but in the 50s and with Timothy Chalamet instead of Adam Sandler. And I think Timmy's 100% deserving of a Best Actor win for this performance. He really vanishes into this role and really carries the film on his shoulders. But Michael B. Jordan won the SAG Award, so maybe there could be an upset. I mean, he would deserve it as well. He was amazing as Smoke and Stack, you know? Leo would be deserving of it, and Wagner Moura. So yeah, anyway, that's everything I watched in February. And the door is still in place, so we actually managed to get through this recording relatively soundproof. But yeah, have a great March. Let me know if there's anything you've been watching that I should check out, and I'll speak to you next month.
Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you liked the video. Remember to like and subscribe and click on the little bell. And also seize the day and call your mom and be kind to yourself.
This is my part.